South Africa struggles to cope with stage 4 power cuts. The Black Business Council is calling for the resignations of Eskom's CEO, Andre de Ruyter, and its board. But does that demand enjoy any backing from the unions right now? And is it a fair demand? Well, Aviwe Mtila is investigating for us and joins us now live. Aviwe, thank you for covering this for us. Is it really fair for Andre de Ruyter to get the blame when he's only been 2 years in the job and infrastructure such as coal station and IRPs take years to sort out in terms of the tender process and the Department of Minerals and Energy actually being in charge of those procurements?
Well, the Black Business Council seems to believe that that's a fair demand, saying that they had hoped that over the next number of years that the electricity blackout crisis in South Africa would be resolved. But they believe that the board and the CEO, Andre de Ruyter, is inept, is overwhelmed by the power crisis and out of its depth, basically. I'm just engaging now numerous stakeholders just to get a feel of how they feel. Even the president yesterday, when we were speaking to him, seemed to suggest that he doesn't have a timeline when the electricity crisis will be resolved. In fact, President Cyril Ramaphosa suggesting that it's one of the issues, in fact, the biggest headache that keeps him awake at night. But now joining me is the OUTA's Duvenage. Thank you for joining us at eNCA. But do you think it's a fair call by the BBC to have the entire board of Eskom and the CEO, Andre de Ruyter, to resign immediately for not being able to contain load shedding?
Not at all. We think that's ridiculous, quite frankly. There have been 9 CEOs since the Zuma era. Andre de Ruyter and his team have been in this position for 20 months now, and they've inherited a systemic breakdown and failure of an institution that was handed over to them. There's been very little maintenance of old plant. There's been no production or procurement of new energy since 2019, by the way, when the President introduced the risk mitigation independent power producers program that had to come into place. The Department of Energy is to blame. Gwede Mantashe needs to tell us why no new energy has been procured. And if you can't bring new energy on, it's very difficult to take the current power stations, which are very old and under-maintained in the past, from the past leadership, and try and fix this problem. It is a very, very difficult issue, and to lay blame and put all of this at the feet of Andre de Ruyter, who wasn't even here, and the Jan Oberholzer, their COO, they're very experienced people in the space and leadership space. And we have Medupi and Kusile that are 5 years overdue, that are breaking down, running at under capacity. They don't have the efficiency that they should have had. They've cost several hundreds of billions rands more than they should have, and that was under the previous leadership. These guys are trying to fix those problems. To now say that they must go, I mean, who are you going to bring in now? What are you going to do? They are now getting into the issues of fixing Eskom. They're dealing with the errant leadership, tackling companies that have ripped us off in the past, which other leaders of other SOEs aren't doing. Why do you want to throw the people out who are trying to fix the problem and are doing a reasonable job? Yes, I'm frustrated. I think we're all frustrated with what is happening at the moment. But we're going to make matters worse if we just think that we can turf out leadership like this in a knee-jerk reaction.
The BBC seems to suggest that the matters are already worse, suggesting that over the last 2 years, the current blackouts are at its worst and highest.
Well, of course, but we were at level 6 in 2019. Remember when the President came back at the end of 2019 from Egypt because of the crisis that was unfolding then. And that is just after these individuals came into their positions. And they've been doing a good job until now, and of course they are mitigating issues that have and problems that have arisen at Medupi and others. So the capacity is low, but we've got to ask ourselves what has happened to the gas to power, the hydro to power, the coal to power, the renewable energy to power procurement processes that should have taken place already under the Minister of Energy. Where is that? Because not one additional kilowatt hour of energy has been bought into our grid right now, into our supply since 2019. That's not Andre de Ruyter's fault. That's not Jan Oberholzer's fault. That is the government's fault, and it's a complex matter, and we need to get down to the real issues and not just shoot the people who are trying to fix this problem and have kept load shedding at bay, which would probably be a lot worse had they not started maintaining the old fleet they inherited, which was under-maintained for 10 years.
Okay, but of course the economy is suffering with these spates of blackouts. Who then should take the blame and take the fall, basically?
Well, I think we need to look at government overall. I mean, we've got the government that we elect, who've been neglecting our energy requirements. The IRP process was delayed for many years under the ministers of energy in the past and under Gwede Mantashe. They've been really slow in kicking the can down the road. So we need to ask ourselves of our government, what are you doing to plan going forward? And when you knew that this problem, and it's been around for some time, what have you done to procure as much new energy as possible? Renewable energy bid windows have been delayed for far too long. So let's speak to Gwede Mantashe and ask him what has he done about bringing new energy into this space. Why do we have to keep, just blaming one institution, which, as was said, has been neglected for so long? I mean, we need to speak to government overall, get all the parties, and get a plan together that's going to fix this once and for all. But they keep dragging their feet, and it's frustrating, not good for the economy.
Yesterday I posed a question of timelines to the president as to when we'll see the end of load shedding. He said it's the biggest headache that keeps him awake, with no certainty as to when it will end. Ultimately, the buck stopped with him. Should he be taking the blame?
Well, I think he should, because when he came back in 2019 and sat his teams down and his ministers down and said, we need to fix this problem, 2 years have gone, and very little has happened in that space. Again, what is the Minister of Energy doing about procurement of new energy? We need tons of it. And we could have got a lot more than what we have right now. Had they moved, had they got their plans into place. And I think the current management at Eskom has been warning government and has been warning South Africa that we are holding this entity of Eskom together with elastic bands. It's very difficult. There's no spare capacity to take down a unit or two for repairs, and then you have a breakdown at another unit, or even the new units, Kusile and Medupi, which should have been on stream at full capacity 5 years ago, are still not even online at full capacity and running at half capacity right now, and Kusile is running at 25% capacity. And we spent billions of rands extra that we should have. What happened to the leadership of Eskom during the Zuma years that are still walking the streets free, that have put us in this precarious position? Now, those are the people that need to be held accountable. They should be in jail. They should be tried for what has happened. Minister Lynn Brown at the time for her conduct and allowing the mess to continue as it did. And then let's ask the Minister of Energy, what has he done to procure over the last 2 years when he should have done a lot more than he has done?
Okay, thank you very much. Wayne Duvenage from the organization Undoing Tax Abuse, basically saying hands off to the Eskom board and the CEO, Andre de Ruyter, as the growing calls from the BBC for their heads to roll over the rolling blackouts that we have.
Thanks, Aviwe. I mean, maybe we should be posing the question then to Gwede Mantashe on why he's been so slow with the procurement and setting the ball rolling with the IRPs. Of course, there is the shortage of diesel, which is causing a huge problem. Thanks, Aviwe Mtila there.